When I think about invention, I think about the Inventors Association of Connecticut, and I think about the people that I meet when I go and do these presentations. And what happens when you become, like me, the president of the Inventors Association of Connecticut, is you become a magnet, like a neodymium magnet, a very high power magnet. And what you do is, like iron filings that stick to the magnet, you become attractive to kooks. And so you become a kook magnet. And when they come to you and they say, if I come to the meeting, will people answer my questions, all my questions about manufacturing and commercialization and funding and marketing and all these things I need to do? And the answer is always, I don't know. I don't know if your questions will be answered. But one thing I do know is if you come to the meetings, you will network with people who may be able to help you. Maybe. There are many things that happen in the world of patenting between idea and commercialization, or what I would call innovation and commercialization. And in that span between these two things, there are many pitfalls. It's not an easy road to travel. But if you start with an idea and you haven't done anything to execute on the idea, and you haven't tried to launch your business, and you haven't created a patent, and you didn't do anything, all you had was an idea in the shower, the first thing you want to do is go and do a patent search. In that process, if you find your idea infringes on other people's patents, bingo, get another idea. It's pretty easy to have ideas. It really is. No sense pursuing an idea that others have already had. So what I would do, if I were you, and I will even make this into a proper homework assignment, is I would take a week or two, review the patent literature thoroughly, cite those things which seem related, and explain why your thing is different. And if it isn't, think of something else. Because there's no sense in pouring your heart and soul into an invention that someone else is going to lay claim to. You need to be able to execute on an invention that's yours. So if you said, I think I'll do something with wireless. Well, if I do a search on wireless and find 135,000 other people have patents, I certainly want to know what the field is that's going to make my contribution different. Consider the metrics of risk, right? Here are 135,000 people who had wireless patents, and they all failed to make money. Why will your idea be different? With ideas like that, I mean, it's almost it's really sobering. Think objectively. You always think your idea is the best idea since sliced bread because you were the inventor and it's your idea. But if you think objectively, you shouldn't be an inventor. Sure.
So I realized that there are like two kinds of things, like process patent and product patent.
Well, there's utility patents and design patents.
Yeah. So my idea might be like similar to the one in 135,000 thing, but maybe the process is different. How I do transmission. Is it true?
Yeah, you can say that your idea is just like somebody else's idea with a difference. And the difference
In the
is,
mechanics.
I'm going to do something here with wireless niobium magnets. I don't know how this works, okay? Maybe there's something about wireless power that you can do that couples it to, let's say, supercapacitors. I just made that up. I don't have any idea as to how much power you might need to run an Arduino board that's big, but maybe if you ran the Teensy board, which is a very small Arduino, then you could run it with a supercapacitor and microwatts. And then if you took it and you needed to, let's say, keep something relatively close, like a hat properly charged because it's a smart hat, You put on the smart hat and it makes you smarter. You put on the smart hat, let's say, here's an invention, okay? I want to digitize a person's motion, but they don't have arms or legs that they can move because they're paralyzed from the neck down. We call them the quadriplegics. I have a friend who's like this. If you give him a hat with a small microprocessor and accelerometers, maybe he could tilt his head back and forth, use some low power technology like Zigbee, and then use relatively low data rates in order to be able to move the mouse left and right and up and down and make clicking to double click. Okay, so now we've empowered him to use this technology. Does he need a great big battery pack hanging off his head? And if he doesn't, maybe I can use supercapacitors to keep it charged and somehow beam the power in. Now I've got a very specific application of known physics. You didn't devise any new physics for this, but you were able to invent something really different, really new. Maybe a biomedical device that benefits people. My idea, but I'll let you use it. So, so if you have some, thing that isn't quite new, but you're going to use it in a new way, that's an invention. Putting a computer in the hat with the sensors and a little supercapacitor, it doesn't sound like you did anything really new in terms of physics. You didn't do anything new in terms of basic principles, but you've got a very interesting thing that you could patent. Unless someone else has already done it. In which case, think again. So yeah, small changes in implementation can really be patented, but the question of whether or not those patents are worth anything is another matter. The question of whether or not to get a patent is a legal question because it has to pass through the patent office. It has to become non-obvious. It has to teach how to create. It has to be something that hasn't been done before. So it's a legal question as to whether or not you should get or apply for a patent. But there's another question, a bigger question, that many of my inventors always overlook. It's a business question. What's the return on your investment if you make the investment in getting that patent? If you can't turn that patent, that invention, I've got a nice algorithm and I think people are going to want to use it because it allows me to do nth order Markov processes, and just about everybody needs that, right? Well, maybe not. And maybe no one will use your algorithm, and so your patent will become worthless. In fact, worse than worthless, it will cost you money to keep the patent, and you'll make no money. The patent will lose you money. So getting a patent is first and foremost a business decision. How much is the patent worth to your business? And also it's a legal decision. You have to get it through the patent office. But if you've got enough money behind you, even silly patents can be allowed. There's a lot of information available on how to do patent search. I like the Google patent search. It's much nicer than the United States Patent and Trademark Office, but they've got a great search system too. They call it TESS. And it does trademark and electronic search. That's why they call it TESS. And it'll let you get the full text on a lot of the patents. It used to be you had to go to the over near Yale, they had a thing called a patent depository. That's where the patents were. You had to physically go and search the patents, and they were all in microfiche. And I used to do this. I'd go through the patents, and I would just search for the patents and see what's already out there. But now, here in the new age with the web, you don't have to do that anymore. And now the patents are all at your fingertips. Here's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, also known as USPTO. They give you a wonderful interface so that you can proceed to do things very similar to what Google does, only with advanced searches, using the patent examiner's classification system. And so if you, for some reason they're very slow here. Google comes right up, but PTO is not. Oh, and look, they've got pictures of the president. That makes it better. So there should be a way to do a patent search in here. Search for patents. Let's see now. Search for patents. Full text. Quick search. Let's see now. I think it was, how do you spell it? Nyodium? N-Y-O-D-I-U-M? N-E-O. You know what I'm going to do is I'll type it wrong in here. Neodymium. Oh, there it is. Came right up. Nyodium. I got to spell it right before I do a patent search. The nyodium motor. Has anybody ever patented a nyodium motor? Would anyone like to guess? Not just yes, but yes, 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 because it sounds like a lot of people would want this, and they only search back to 1976, and here's 4,200 people with nyodium motors. Is it possible that these are not motors? There may be a way to ensure, oh, here, permanent magnet motor and washing machine provided therewith. So it's not just a nyodium motor, it's a nyodium motor for washing machines. How's that for specific? This is just like all the other nyodium motors, but it's different because it works with washing machines. You know, one of the things that's really bad about electric cars is they don't go really fast and they don't go really far, right? So when you buy a Nissan Leaf, it goes 80 miles and then you run out of batteries. Batteries are so important because you've got to carry them with you and they weigh a ton, literally, and they run out and you have to charge them. But if you have wireless power, ooh, then you can keep your electric car going and you don't have to carry batteries. So all you need is your superconducting your motors and your supercapacitors and your super efficient car, and then you drive over coils that are occasionally in the road and your car just stays charged. Like a train that doesn't actually have to generate power, it just draws it from the third rail. It makes it far more efficient because you don't have to carry batteries. Now you've got something very specific, and you could say, well, wireless power, I can't patent that. But a technology that lets me do wireless power for transportation, now maybe I could patent. Although I'll bet I could do a search and find someone did this already too. So when you see some patents like this, you can see who is citing it. And so these are the references that they cite. But if you like this patent and you think it's interesting, you want to see who else is citing it. So it's referenced by. So we have the backward references, the things that done prior to this patent, and then the forward references, the things that cite this patent and build on it. So now if I say I'm interested in nyodium motors, and here's this patent on nyodium motors, who is using this? And what are they using it for? And it looks like no one else has cited this patent. That might be very good. The patent is from, let's say, 2006. Take that, add 20 years, so by 2026 this patent goes to the public domain. I could just hear you counting the years in your head. Oh, I just have to wait a few more years, and then this becomes all mine. It goes to the public domain. Yes, sir?
Is it possible that using the reference we can make any improvements and put it in different files?
Sure. In fact, one thing you could do is you could do an advanced search based on date. So let's say you wanted to go back 20 years. You could search for patents on nyodium motors that are, well, let's say, maybe there's a way, a more advanced, oh, here it is, advanced. I should be able to select what the years are if I make sure that it's at least 20 years old or older. then I should be able to get patents that have just recently gone into the public domain, which means I can then use them. I knew one guy who had a patent on, his name was Sadiq Ferris, and he was from Revio. That was his company. He had a patent on 3D films. Nobody was making 3D movies. But when his patent ran out, everybody started making 3D movies. And so it was one of those things where people were just waiting for the patent to expire. So the same thing happens with trademarks. Trademarks are called living, or they're called dead. The dead trademarks are often abandoned. So if you have an idea for a name for your company, and this is a whole other thing, or a name for your product, you can get a trademark for it and start to sell the product. Like, for example, DocJava. It's trademarked, or it was. And so in that case, no one else should be able to use the DocJava name. And so if I want to, I can use the trademark and I can lock in the domain. So now I have both legal protection and a technological protection because I become the domain owner, docjava.com. And no one else should be able to infringe upon my, how would I call it, my name, right? If my name was McDonald's, I would have enough lawyers to run around and sue people even if their name was McDonald because that's how they were born. Somebody starts a restaurant and he says, it's you know, my name is John McDonald, not Ron McDonald. But that's my name. They'd say, sorry, you're diluting our trademark. They'd sue you. And that's because they own the trademark. That helps them to protect their brand. The trademark is a whole other area. Let's not worry about naming your product until we can figure out whether or not your product passes or your idea passes the patent search test. But that's an important thing. You really do want to come up with a good name for your product if you can. If you find a patent by doing a patent search, but you practice anyway, you can always claim that you didn't know. You were an unknowing infringer of the patent. But as soon as somebody gives you actual notice, then you know, and you become a knowing infringer of the patent, and then you're subject to the triple damages. If you have a patent, and I've seen this before on software, sometimes the software is much too big to publish in the patent. So what they do is they take a CD-ROM, and they put the software on the CD-ROM, they describe the algorithm in a top-level way with flowcharts, and they keep the CD-ROM in what they call the file wrapper. It's part of what remains inside of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And if you go and visit the office, you can gain access to the CD-ROM that's in there. So it's very clever. You really have published the software for creating the device, but you've made it so difficult to access, so costly to access, that you've kind of given yourself a sort of protection. So by putting it on CD-ROM and making it kind of difficult to get, that's good enough. That might be good enough software protection for you. I recently bought something, and it was using open source software. And they say, if you want the software, you can go here and you can download it. And I did. And it was a whole bunch of GNU copyrighted software that they put into their product. And the contribution that they made was they packaged it right. They made a little wireless transmitter and a receiver, and they were able to transmit HD video from one room to the other. And they did a good job. And they even got a way to do infrared transmitter and receiver so that they could have the remote work, so you could change the channel remotely and not buy a cable box for every room. So that has value because our cable company charges us for every box every month. And here you could just pay once and then you're done. So you really don't need a patent to make a profit. You don't even need to have your own software. You can use your own, I'll call it public domain software, or open source software, and then you can still make a profit based on that. So you really don't need a patent for it. But for this course, it'd be good if we could make sure that your stuff withstands at least the patent search. Let's not worry about microfiche. I don't expect people to have to go to a patent depository. This is the book that I used, and it's, I think, just come out with a new edition based on the America Invents Act, and I ordered a copy. Once patent law changes in a very material way, then you've got to study up on this stuff. This fella, Jack Lander, he's local, and he used to run the Yankee Invention Convention, and he's an inventor mentor, and he's also a part of IACT. I think he used to be an IACT president, and so this all I need is money. How to finance your invention. I haven't even read that. There's a lot of literature out there on patenting. So the United States Patent and Trademark Office does patents. They also do trademarks. And there's an awful lot of people, including some organizations who shall remain nameless but are actually local to here, some in Milford. And they are charging people who go to these IACT meetings thousands of dollars. I heard one quote, one person told me they spent $10,000 to file their first patent and get a market study. And I looked at this and I said, why are you throwing money away like this? This is terrible. And so you have to be very careful about the scams that are out there. So if this is an area where you want to go and you want to become sort of an inventor who's also an entrepreneur, I urge you to come to some of these meetings. We're going to have one today, and it's going to have, in fact, I can show you the, this is very good, inventus.org. Do I have to type www? I'm not sure why our website is so slow here. Our connections. Our connection always seems very slow. But if you go to inventus.org on a normal network, not ours, you'll be able to see the next meeting, and we have a panel of venture capitalists. And they'll be telling us about how to get funding in 2013. That meeting is free. See now, why should that be? The website cannot be found. What is going on here? If I went to Google, oh, I can't get to Google? It's very strange. So here it is, inventus.org. And now what? Preview not available. Cached. So you'd have to click on next presentation. That probably won't work either, since the inventus.org site. It's here in on campus.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be tonight at 7 o'clock, from 7 until 8:30. There'll be a presentation on funding, and in principle, I think maybe all of you should go if you're interested in turning this into an invention. Why is this down? Our website is not good. I'll say our network is not good. That should not be down. I suppose, Doc Joe. It'll be in the School of Business dining room. Yeah, my website's up. For some reason, what if I type www? Does that? It should also be up. I think, unless there's something wrong with this. Oh yeah, it just maps over to show.docjava.com. That's fine. So that's sort of an idea for raising money. If you have an idea and you think it's patentable, maybe it's good to network with people who also have inventions. You know who else comes to these things? Is patent attorneys. You get venture capitalists, you get angel funders, you get inventors, of course. You get marketing people, you get salespeople. It's an interesting, I'll call it, ecosystem for taking ideas and turning them into businesses. Here's another way to do it. You know, how do I value an idea? This is a big question. Is it patentable? Okay, that maybe it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea for business. One way you value an idea is if you actually turned it into a business and you created sales. Now, why is it you can't even get to Kickstarter? I was going to show you the Kickstarter crowdfunding idea that I put into practice, but here it seems like our website is so bad. It's terrible. What do you think is going on here? I find it very interesting that I should try and teach engineering in a school where the network doesn't work properly. Yeah. Yeah, this is supposed to be a hard, you know, the Ethernet doesn't work in our building here. I just don't understand why I can't like show a web page. Bizarre. So were you able to get to?
Yeah, no, it's wireless.
You can? Yeah. What's wrong with me? So the network works as long as it's not in the School of Engineering. I should just start bringing a wireless laptop. I think I got one in the car somewhere. Yeah, it's too bad, really. We should be able to make these things work better. Let's see what else I can say. Inventor names. I guess the thing is, there's a bunch of silly patents. There's a whole website dedicated to the silly patents. There's a website dedicated to absurd patents. There's a kind of invention that people do, inventing for the fun of it. They make the silly, absurd inventions. Oftentimes it makes no sense to file for such inventions, but you can if you want to. And that's what people appear to do. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just for fun. Let's see what else we can see. Public domain ideas. I love this idea. You have something that's been patented, but it was 20 years ago, now it's in the public domain. That patent is everybody's. And if they never practiced, if they never turned that patent into an invention, it's yours to use. This is kind of neat. And let's see. A lot of times what you want is a kind of a law school, but we don't have one here. But we do have people who come and teach patent law, and they're lawyers. One of them is Mike Blake, and he lives in Milford, and he's a practicing attorney, a patent attorney, and he comes and does a nice presentation for the MOT program, the Master of Technology program. I'm not convinced that we couldn't do something like that here, get a guest lecture with Mike. But I can do you one better. I'll send you an email once I have access to the intranet, and in that email I'll give you a link for next class. And that next class will contain a link for a presentation on the America Invents Act, because we ran a panel for that here on campus, and we recorded it. And what I'll do is I'll assign that as watching. That'll be the lecture. And you can do that at a distance. And then I'll be on travel this time next week. So I will not be here. So what I would like you to do, I'll send you the link to it once things are working properly. And then you'll be able to watch that at home. It's uploaded with Vimeo. I'll bet you Vimeo doesn't work either. I like to say that it's always a challenge to use the network here. Why does it work now? I don't understand. It shouldn't work. You know, do you think Kickstarter now works? No. I get very weirded out by the whole thing. So, for some reason, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. A lot of my lectures are being uploaded to Vimeo. You probably saw some of them already. I also use another one called Blip TV. And Blip TV will let me do low definition videos, and I can upload those regularly as well. Kickstarter never came back. Did it give up? I think it just gave up. It's unfortunate. I'm not going to spend any more class time on that. Can I get to Axiom Mentor? Huh. So certain sites work and certain sites do not work. I think there's something wrong with our domain name server. That seems to be the thing. So what I would do is I would give the assignment when I have all the proper links. But it's going to involve doing a proper patent search on your idea, making sure that it hasn't infringed upon an existing patent, and if it has, modifying the idea somewhat. So in 2 weeks, what I would expect is a presentation just like what you did today, but with a difference. And the difference is it will cite the patents upon which it depends. There'll be related work, I imagine. I think virtually everyone here has an idea that somehow is related to something that's been patented before. And then you'll show why your idea is different. So let's take a couple of weeks to do that. We'll have a video to look at. We'll have a little presentation with some patents that we can cite, some ideas that we can lay claim to as being our own, which I think is very important. And let me ask if there are any questions. So 2 weeks, new presentation, cited patents, ideas that are original, ideas which are yours. Okay, not patented before, but patentable. Non-obvious ideas according to the criteria of patentability. And this will give you a chance to sort of rethink the ideas that you've had. How does that sound to people? Good? Alright, let me see if I can get to this Kickstarter thing again, because it's really pissing me off. It says, check out my new Kickstarter board. Is it possible that I'm just doing something wrong? Everyone here can use Kickstarter but me? Huh? It's because of Ethernet? That's not even a reason. It's like saying, it's because of the air. You know, is the Ethernet just like a bad idea? What is going on here? This is terrible. maybe someone can do this. Can we ping Kickstarter? CMD. Let's see now. NS lookup. Kickstarter.com. Request timed out. Wow. What if we want to look up Google.com? I think NS lookup can't work because domain name services are not working here. If you can't map a name to an IP address, then you can't make the internet function properly. And that's key. What if I said ping Google.com? Oh. So that actually worked as an IP address. So if I mark it, click it, and hit enter, in theory I should be able to paste it, take off the brackets, and it should look like Google, right? Or not. Yeah, it does. So if I go to ping www.kickstarter.com, see, now this is the problem. I can ping Google, I can't ping Kickstarter. So without an IP address, I can't do much. Now, if you're on your computer, are you able to ping Kickstarter? Oh, it worked. Mark. Enter. Paste. Take away the brackets. That's the network, the name server lookup. So what's happening here, it looks like we're having very slow resolution between names and IP addresses. That's what a name server does. It's an SOA, server-oriented architecture, SOA, and with these different services that you get on the network, you get DHCP, Dynamic Host Control Protocol. You get SOA name services, service-oriented architecture that maps IP address to names and back again. Whois, for example, Gesundheit, which will show you who controls the domain for a given entity, like docjava.com. You can look up my domain, find the technical administrator. But this is just not working. This is bad news. So it's not just a domain name mapping. The whole network seems like it's hosed. Like something's terribly wrong here. So I must go complain to someone or other. So that's what I have for you for today. I think you have an assignment. And what I'll do is I'll type it up for you so that you can sort of get it a little bit more formal. And maybe what we should do is put it in as an assignment, and we'll call it, how does one add an assignment? Create new assignment? That sounds good. Assignment number 2, paper, title, patent search. What does it mean about the groups? Oh, I don't need groups. It's a standard assignment. Save and edit. And when shall we make it due? The 12th, I should imagine, right? Oh, I see. It has to be due at 12 p.m.? Is that 12 midnight or 12? How many hours to complete this? 3, 4, 30, 6, 9? 9 hours. I think you should spend at least at least 9 hours on your idea, especially if you think it's going to turn into a thesis or your next big business. All right, you may need to really think about it. It's not so much how much you write, but it's how much thought goes into this. And I think it makes sense to have some thought. And so what you really want to do here is nail it down so that you have why can't we see this? I find that very disturbing. This editor is not correct. Ah, there we go. So this is homework 2, and it's use the USPTO and USPTO and Google Patents to make sure your idea is patentable. If it is not, create a new idea that is patentable. Cite the patents that your idea depends upon, or let's say your idea builds on. I've never done this assignment before. I have many homeworks that I've done in the past. This is truly a new homework assignment. And I think it's a real interesting one too, because this is the kind of thing you'd have to do anyway if you were going to start a business or do something that really was going to make a contribution. And then let me think about this. Oh, right. Revisit homework 1. Okay. Create a slide deck based on your new patentable idea. One thing I could say is make sure it is not obvious. There is no acid test for obviousness. You may even need a court of law and a jury of your peers, where your peers might be other people skilled in your field, i.e. Not obvious to someone skilled in the field. Right? So that's key. Let's see now. What else does it have to be? Make sure it is somehow different than what was done in the past. Yeah, you're going to have to, put on your thinking cap and say, oh, gee, is this obvious? And now let's see, what else? You've got something that's new, it's not obvious. That makes it patentable in my view. Let's think about this a minute. Create at least, I'll say, 6 slides. So now before it was minimum or no more than 6 slides. So at least 6 slides, but no more than, let's say, make up a number, 10? 10 slides. So these have to be, so the rule is going to be 10, 20, 30. 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font. That way we know that you're not going to clutter the slides with a ton of words and then read the slides to us. So use the rule 10, 20, 30. Okay? 10 slides. Oops. So that's 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font. That's nice big font. Everyone can read that. And it also means you cannot have a cluttered slide deck. So with 10 slides, very little is written. In fact, there is more thinking on each slide than there is writing on each slide. So you can see a word or two and it will conjure the basic idea, and you'll be able to talk about it without having to sit here and read your notes as you may have done before. Because if you have to read the slides or read your notes, you will not be able to make a compelling presentation. So this is part of what some people call the elevator speech. The elevator is when you're trapped in the elevator with the venture capitalist, or more accurately, they are trapped with you. And you have one elevator ride to pitch your idea, and then they're out of there. They're running away. Get away from me, crazy person. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I want to tell you about my idea. Well, okay, I guess you have an elevator ride. We should be in the next floor in 20 seconds. And now you got 20 seconds. And what can you do to pitch your idea in 20 seconds? And if you're a good pitch person, you should be able to capture the entire idea in 20 seconds. I have an idea that has a sustainable competitive advantage and blows away the competition. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Ding! You're here. Well, he didn't get a chance to hear your idea. He just heard about the idea. You really got to pitch the idea and make it succinct. So that's kind of important. Some of the slides will have to cite the prior work. So you may cite the prior work by saying I found 10 patents and here are the numbers or something like that. And then you might even mention some of the patent titles. But it's not clear you'll be able to put them all in there with 10 slides and 30-point font. So be careful how you allocate your resources. That's the point. The elevator speech says you've only got so much time to pitch the idea, and then you lose people's attention. People cannot pay attention very long because of television. They watch too much television. They want to have a lot of different sort of scenes, and it's a very interesting idea that you can have science and it will occur during the commercial. So if somebody says, we're going to do the DNA testing, well, by the time the commercial is done, the DNA testing is done. They don't tell you that it takes like a week, right? Because in real life, maybe it does take a week. So they speed everything up. Nobody has attention for these things. So the other thing I'll do is I'll say, watch the prior lecture on the America Invents Act. A link will follow. And what can I do to save this assignment? There it is. Now it says it's hidden, so I have to make it visible, right? Edit, display on, displays assignment online. Now, does everybody get a notice about this when I do something like that? I'm not familiar enough with Mentor to know. You'll have to check it online. You don't just get a notice.
Well, I think you sent us an email earlier about changing your sending one.
Yeah, it says here, submit online. No, I want to make submit online yes. Yes, because I want everyone to submit online. Yeah, you'll have to upload it into your little course portfolio. But don't overwrite your prior work. Keep it there. And might be really good if you number your assignments. So you may have had one called Witricity. You might like to rename that Homework 1. And then the next one that you submit, we should probably give it a name like Homework 2. Because when I go to your folder, I'll want to make sure I'm opening the right thing. But don't erase the old one. Just rename it. Is that okay? Everybody good? So I won't be here next week. I'll be on travel, at least on Tuesday. So I'll give you a URL for a video to watch. It won't be of me, and it'll be real patent attorneys. And they did a presentation here on campus just last IACT meeting. So I think you'll find it very interesting, and they'll tell you all about the New America Invents Act. Thank you very much.